Our next session is going to be a live interview with Bonnie Tunya of BBC and Craig Jones, Director of Interpol.
The aim of these conversations has really been to bring thought leaders together and try and figure out a safer way of operating in the interwebs. And since morning, we've had interesting speakers just come in and talk a lot about that. And this next conversation is going to look at the concept of safety and looking at it through the eyes of the people who are charged with the job of ensuring that everybody is safe. So we're very honored to have the Director for Cybercrime at Interpol, Craig Jones, joining us. Craig, many thanks for making time. There's a lot of questions already coming from the social spaces. Just a quick introduction. My name is Bonnie Tunya. I'm a journalist, and I'm excited to be chairing this conversation. Craig, let's just jump into it. The theme is local to global. So looking at law enforcement's response as far as cybersecurity is concerned, if you could just very briefly give us Interpol's mandate as regards to cybersecurity, and if you could just sort of paint to us a landscape of what Interpol has been involved with recently in regarding to cybercrime and what really the landscape looks like.
Okay, thanks very much, Bonnie, and thank you everybody for allowing me another opportunity to come back on and spend some time with you. If I just go back to your opening point though, Bonnie, when you said about we're responsible, law enforcement are responsible for the safety side of it. It's not just down to law enforcement. I think is a point I just like to put out there to start with, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later on. It's a joint responsibility, and very much for me, there's an industry responsibility in here, and also there's a user responsibility. So it's like a triangle effect, effectively. We're much stronger as the three together than trying to do it all individually. From the Interpol side of things, as I said earlier on the presentation this morning, we represent 194 member countries. We're a little bit like the United Nations. We're an intergovernmental neutral organisation. So we don't get involved in the politics or anything like that. It's purely for the law enforcement within the member countries. Our mandate for the global cybercrime program is, funny enough, hopefully you can see it in the corner behind me, but it's about reducing the global impact of cybercrime and protecting communities for a safer world. So there's a number of different elements to that. First of all, we talk about reducing because, have we stopped physical crime in a sense as societies? In the many hundreds of years, we still have violent crime, we still have thefts, etc. That still goes on. So if we had something as a mandate to say we're going to stop cybercrime, that wouldn't be realistic. Also the global impact, because as you've seen today through nearly all of the presentations and the speakers from industry and partners, this is a global, and I wouldn't even say it's phenomenon. It is just the nature of what we're dealing with now. The interconnectivity has made the reach and scope, on the one hand, fantastic. I'm sat here in Singapore at the moment, having a conversation with friends in Africa, and we've got a worldwide audience. So that connectivity side of it is brilliant. But the infrastructure can also be taken advantage of, as we've seen. The normal crime types are commodity-based. So we look at drug dealing, firearms, human trafficking, child sexual exploitation. It is a commodity-based type of crime. It's a physical crime a lot of the time, and that's what policing we're used to dealing with. However, all those crime types do have an online element to them now as well, effectively, because people have been using the phones, the computers, to help them and enable them to commit crime. But then when we look specifically at cybercrime, that's the type of crime types we just heard about on the last presentation there, where the cyber criminals, organised crime groups, and let's be honest about some of this. Some of them aren't that clever, but effectively now what's happened is, because of the tools that are out there so freely available, you can create these, as we saw earlier, the fake sites that can fool people. And as human beings, there is a certain amount of naivety sometimes in what we do. So sometimes if we're out late at night, we might not walk down a certain street because we wouldn't think it's very safe, even though it's the quickest route home. When we're online, maybe we don't quite have that same mindset. We look for ease of accessibility. We look for the deals that are out there as well. And normally, if it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. So
Right.
the other part of our mandate is protect the community for a safer world. So how can we look to prevent crime and cybercrime effectively? Again, a lot of the people speaking earlier have given good demonstrations about how they can protect people from becoming victims of crime. But also there's some onus on us as well about, when we're online, some, certain habits, some certain steps that we can take. But a lot of us, and I'll include myself in that, we are not computer experts. We do not understand the pure binary ones and zeros, etc., and everything like that. We just want to get from A to B or purchase something. That's what we want to use the internet for. And that's why I said, coming back to that sort of triangle, that's where we need to work very closely with industry about protecting ourselves as well. So how can we protect ourselves when we're online, whether that's service providers, or whether that's websites we're going onto or companies we're going onto? How do we actually know we're being protected? When we're entering our bank details, is there something on our computer? Is there not something on our computer? Is the site going on to, is that a true site or not a true site? So part of our program as well is building the capabilities and capacity of law enforcement in order to help them, first of all, prevent crime, but also help and identify opportunities where they can work in the communities and prevent people becoming victims. We do that through a number of different ways, through our projects. We've just done a global cyber awareness campaign as part of the COVID-19 piece over 4 weeks. And there's lots of different ways we can do that. So effectively, what we try and do is support all of our 194 member countries around some capability and capacity building, but also around data and information, and that's one of the key parts to that. So that's that aggregation, and as we said, it's the local to global. So trying to aggregate up that local data set into a global set, and then combining that with other data sets. So we have private partners where we get data and information from. We then add that to the police data. We have that with our analysts as well, and we go through those data sets. We look for those unique identifiers. We look for those different scams. We look for everything that we possibly can. So it's a bit like our normal policing, where meticulously going through, trying to gather all that intelligence, and then we try and put that into an operational sense. Now we don't do the investigations. We're not allowed to under our mandate. We have to support and coordinate that. But again, that's really powerful for us because we might not get right down into the weeds, but we've got this sort of overview, and we can help coordinate whereby we might have some victims in a number of countries. We might have the infrastructure in another country. We might have the cashing out and payments going through a different sort of network. And then the criminals might be somewhere else as well. And we might have a couple of national law enforcement bodies, investigating that. So our job there is very much to coordinate that activity.
Right. And Craig, looking at this COVID period, a lot of people are spending considerably a lot more time online. What are some of the key trends that you observe as far as cybercrime is concerned in Africa?
So I think we've seen a couple of key trends. We've effectively seen an increase in reporting, and I'm going to choose my words quite carefully here. So when I say an increase in reporting, it doesn't mean the crime's gone up, because quite a lot of times cybercrime is not reported to the police. We all get these various emails, we get the text messages, and we just delete them or just ignore them. But effectively, that's an attempt from someone, and we wouldn't necessarily report that to police. We've also had it where someone is scammed out of some money and the bank refunds them. So then again, that might not be reported to police. So I think we've seen an increase in reporting, but that is a lot to do with people becoming more aware of the scams going on and things like that as well. We saw a lot of initial setups of fake websites and things like that, attracting people to say, COVID-19 was the law or the hook, if you like. So people were going onto those sites to either look to buy face masks, personal protective equipment, etc. They were logging on, they were giving their banking details, they were paying for goods, and then those goods wouldn't arrive. And that's quite a sort of straightforward scam, if you like, which taken advantage of a situation. We also looked at potentially some ransomware attacks. So what that was where someone might click on a link in an email, it might bring some malware into the system effectively, it would encrypt a whole bunch of files within a business, and then a ransomware would come up and say, pay X amount of Bitcoins and we will decrypt your files. So again, we had a lot more of those reported. Now, I'm not saying at the moment those are on the increase, but again, it's because a lot of people were going online and seeing that come up. There was some talk about it being linked particularly to the health sector, so the hospitals and things like that. We saw a number of instances around the world and certain sort of ransomware chains, and we've got some ongoing operations and investigations at the moment supporting member countries in that area. And again, it's the same ones, that the sort of money attacks as well, because that's what they're after quite a lot of the time, is the financial type attacks and going after the money effectively.
And Craig, obviously, there's a lot more mobile connectivity on the African continent. Mobile money has skyrocketed. The use on the African continent compared to anywhere else in the world. Do you see these as presenting mobile-specific cyber crimes, and what are some of the ways of mitigating that?
Yeah, but we saw that previously. Last year we did a sort of global to regional threat assessment. So again, this comes back to this sort of local to regional to global, and then global to regional to local. So we might think, oh, actually there's not a lot of different in countries and regions, but quite rightly, as you said, in Africa it was very much highlighted, the sort of mobile banking apps and people doing a lot of their finances online, but also sharing phones as well. So they were downloading different applications on their phones, maybe not always genuine applications. Again, we know that a lot of the criminals out there will develop these apps to steal information and harvest information. So I think in the sort of Africa region, as you said, there was a lot of people using phones and the mobile networks. They are potentially more susceptible to that. And again, as we move into this sort of virtual currency piece as well, looking at how we do our banking online, or whether we're still using like traditional banking apps, or whether we're moving more towards virtual currencies as well, which is, it's exciting in some ways. It's new ways of being able to do business as well, but also like anything, it comes with risks at times as well.
Right. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the law enforcement bit. And I've gotten quite a lot of concern about the working relationship between Interpol and police in specific jurisdictions. Could you just paint to us a picture of how that relationship is in the quest to enforce the law?
So I think, as I've said earlier, we're a neutral organisation. So I'm a law enforcement official originally from United Kingdom. So they law enforcement, like anything, there's geopolitical natures to countries and who countries trust and want to work with. So previously in the UK, we did a lot of investigations with our colleagues in the US, Five Eyes partners, so those are Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and then also within Europe. So quite a sort of Western sort of investigation type, and then others as well. Now I'm working Europol, Europol. Freudian slip there. Now I'm at Interpol. It's fantastic. I can go and have a conversation with any member country. I was in China last year speaking to the Chinese, looking about how we can develop capabilities with them, how they can develop capabilities with us and our member countries. I was in the US as well last year. I was supposed to be in Russia in July. I was there last year at the International Crime Congress. So, building those ties and those relationships, because part of our role is the coordination. And that's really, really key to this. So this is how can Interpol play that coordination piece with those countries that have got good capabilities, good capacity. The criminals might be in a hard to reach jurisdiction for one or other reason for one of the countries. The infrastructure might be in another area, which is hard to reach. So very much I see our role as around, connecting policing for a safer world, which, funny enough, I've just used the sort of vision statement of Interpol there. But this goes back to, Interpol's been around since, as a concept and a form, since about 1917, 1918. So well over 100 years as an organisation. I think someone said to me, if you try to create this type of organisation nowadays, we would struggle, for numerous different reasons. But I think because of the long history of Interpol, also the neutrality of it as well, we don't, within our constitution, under Article 3, we can't get involved in conflicts, or either political or military or racial or anything like that. So that gives us a certain degree of protection, but also our member countries as well. Within my team, the Chinese office has just gone back recently, so hopefully we'll get a replacement for Lily soon as well. We've got people from Israel, UK, hopefully someone's going to be coming in from the US soon as well, Nigeria. And again, we work very closely in our regions as well. So we sort of divide the world up into 5 regions. So we do take a regional approach into how we work with those member countries. But each of our 194 member countries has a national central bureau. And that's one of the key parts to how we disseminate our information into those countries, but also how we receive information on police information effectively.